good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's so nice to see all of you back on the Serene View. And today we are speaking about depression in young adults. And for those of you who don't know this program, this is the first time you've seen it. My name is Serene, and this is something I do on a weekly basis just to kind of look at some of the unthinking assumptions that we have picked up from social media. I'm sure all of you have heard about it, how social media feeds us the information that we already know or we already believe in, reinforcing our beliefs. And so this is a forum for you to kind of rethink some of these unthinking assumptions and how they're controlling our lives. And today with me, I have a young person, Maricel. Maricel has been, I guess, I was saying living the life of a young person, now, but a lot of us look at youth or think about youth as, oh, youth is to be envied. It's so great to be a young person nowadays. How nice if we were younger, and so on. And so I've actually invited Maricel to come on and speak a little bit about her experience as a young person in this time. And before we get started, Maricel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. Good morning. And my name is Maricel Alvarado. I am one of the teaching assistant at the same time. I'm doing a research currently. I'm doing a research, and that will be one of the topic that I'm doing in the future at the same time. But currently now we have a topic about uh, depression in young adult, and it's like, is that psychologically normal? Where there's a data state that it's common for those um, young adult to face that kind of struggles and to suffer. And one of the topic is, it's not easy to be a young, and it's not easy to be a young because you have this uh, sense of where are you going and how you will be going in that path of your life. And
Right.
one factor
Okay.
of that is that you're going to be like your family background is that
I think, Maricel, before we go into the actual topic itself, let's take
yes,
a little bit of a look at this topic, because I think for a lot of people, I mean, we come from different viewpoints, right?
yes,
But
yes,
let me just say kind of the overall. If you
yes,
think about youth, right? I mean, just think about the
mm,
amount of money spent on anti-aging products,
yes,
in the world. Think
exactly.
about, if I meet up with you, I have to compliment you by saying, "Oh, you look so young. You look so much younger than you are. Oh my goodness, you know." Whereas if I say that, "Oh, you look so old, you look so much older than you
Yeah,
are,"
I
you'll be
will be
very
offended,
insulted,
really
Uh,
offended.
Yes, not only that, right? I mean,
Yes, yes,
some of the other things that occur, right? I mean, you look at media, you look at the stars, the models,
yes,
anything you open up, just have a look at. It's all young people, right? How many times do we see old people modeling things? Very very few, right? Youth is
mhm,
almost kind of like in a way worshipped, and yet as a young person yourself, I mean, you are talking about how, depression is normal for young people.
yes, yes,
And I
yes.
want to ask you this as somebody who is no longer young, which is, what do you have to be depressed about? Seriously, like, what do you have depressed about? You live in the best of times. You have probably more availability to the internet, to information, to food, even than we did. I mean, what do you have to be depressed about?
Uh, it's like a sense of depressed because for us it's like for me, in my point of view about social media, when it comes to product and services that they offer, when it comes with the product, especially the anti-aging product, is that we have this face mask. We do face mask in front of social media and how beautiful we are, how pretty we are, but deep inside we're bleeding. There's part of ourselves that bleeding because we're trying to hide it. And social media, especially Facebook, Instagram, even YouTube itself, that we have to take video of ourselves or photos to be sent out in social media. And it's like we have to face mask. We have to put face in ourselves through those products and services that we're using. And it can give us that if we do that, the reality is not there. The reality is we're struggling. The reality is that we're coping in some point of our lives that really, really bothered, especially the young people, in how they will deal with lives. And only social media is a way, as an outlet, but still there's no reality inside of it. And being saying said like that is very important for us as to see the reality, to think about it and to rethink about it, and how we will deal that we'll see the reality when we go to social media of who we are, instead
I
of trying
think
to cover.
before we move on to another point, Marisol, let me
Mhm.
say it this way. Okay, I think you made a really good point about social media and the need to be on a mask.
Yes.
I actually grew up before the internet. When I was last a young person, there was no internet, right? And so I have never faced that kind of pressure growing up, sorry. I mean, it's understandable that as a younger person, we are less secure, we are more concerned about what our peers think of us. I think that's a very natural part of being a young person before you grow into your own.
Yes,
And
yes.
this social media that you talk about, right? This need to almost put on a mask and pretend to be somebody else, right?
Yes,
Do
agree.
you think that that is one of the struggles that younger people face these days?
There's a possibility, a big possibility on that. That's the one they're facing, because in reality, like I said, they're bleeding, they're hiding, they're covering what's going on in their private lives, and they just pretend in front of it that it's really like a 10% of it that
No,
they're really
maybe
showing off
maybe
who
let me
they are.
ask it ask you in a different way. Let me put it this way. Is this something that you have personally experienced or those around you? I mean, do you actually see people doing this? Because I mean, we see it on TV all the time. That's why they say, oh, young people are like this, young people are like that. But is that actually your lived experience? Did you feel that way?
Yes, yes. And especially if you're down and you don't want yourself seen by other people that like you're struggling, and you want to see yourself in front of social media that you're happy. And it's like unscripted, because you scripted yourself in front of people just to look unhappy you are, but deep inside you're not happy. And it's one way of, like, you cover up something that what you're dealing in reality. You're dealing
But
something bad in
why?
reality.
No, honestly, why? Because I when I look at younger people these days, I feel that their relationships are built more online than they are offline. I mean, I will be I will be blunt and tell you this, that a lot of the times for me, meeting a friend is literally face to face, right? Having a coffee together and
Yes,
so on. But
yes, yes,
I
yes,
think young
yes.
people these days build a lot of connections online. So why? Why is there this need to pretend to be somebody else in front of those who, you know, are supposedly your friends?
There is a possibility. Why people doing like that? Because they want to be liked. They're looking for comfort, and in that sense of comfort that they're looking, they want to be look good on those people. And people have this misconception that if you look pretty, you have a beautiful body, you will be liked
No,
by
but
many people. But
how would I put it this way? Okay, look, I have friends that I've been friends with for like, most of my
Mhm.
life, right? 30 years. And I'm very sure that if I look uglier than I do right now, like way uglier than I do right now, that they will continue to be my friends, right? And I feel kind of hard pressed to say that. I almost want to ask, is it, are your friendships not the same as ours? I mean, I don't know of many people of my generation where, you know, my friends will cease being friends with me if I don't look good. Seriously, like I don't know of many people who have that problem. So are your friendships just different?
It's not different. It's just like we are overwhelming when we have the sense that when we put up a photos in our social media, and it's very overwhelming and happy to see that people like us, like 100 people, thousands of people like us, and we don't know them and they don't know us. It's just like they like the photos that we put in on it, and it will give us
Right,
like a
right.
sense of joy that
Okay,
people
so
like my photos.
can I say this, that these are not even your friends? They are like
Yes,
passerbys
yes,
going by
yes,
and
yes,
giving you
yes.
likes, and then you're kind of catering to these almost like strangers who gives you like. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that correct?
Yes, yes. There's a sense of like you feel like yes, I am beautiful. It gives you like it gives you up your esteem. It will give you a higher like you have a higher morale in yourself because
I'm
people
going
like
to
you.
I'm going to ask you a very, I don't know whether it's considered a dumb question or something, but
Yes, yes, yes.
honestly, why do you care? Like, why do you care about whether or not strangers like you?
Because like I said, it will give you comfort. There are people that we have that comfort. We're looking for comfort that we cannot find. We cannot find it in our family. We cannot find it in our friends. And through social media, we'll feel that we're important. We feel that we're being valued despite the fact that they don't know us and we don't know them. And it gives them like, oh, I have a joy now. I'm happy to say that I have million subscribers. Someone.
Can I
So it will
can I
give you
pull you
something.
back to the last sentence, which is, you said the first sentence is you cannot find comfort, or
Mm.
maybe the word is care,
Care.
from your
Yes.
friends and family. And
Yes.
therefore, this is the reason why you are turning to complete strangers to
Yes.
get, I don't know, a like or something like that, in
Mm.
order to get that, I mean, almost psychological healing that you cannot get from your friends and
Yes.
family. Is this really what you mean?
Actually, it's not that what people need. It's just like that the need from coming from a family that they didn't support, that's the time that they're looking at for other people. And for them, or for us, social media can help us. Social media gives comfort for us and gives us a sense of enjoyment because there are things that we cannot see or we cannot find for our loved ones, even though they're there literally. But it seems that in our words now, so especially with the new technologies, that even the family they're holding phones every now and then, and
Okay.
you know, so it makes sense
But
that there's no
can I,
there's
can
no
I
time
just
for
kind
each
of
other.
interrupt you there about the family, right? Because I am family with some young people, and I will come to a family dinner, for example, and find that they are, stuck on their screens, right? They're stuck on
Mhm.
their screens.
Yes,
And
yes,
it's really hard to even get any interaction with them. And I mean, all this time I've kind of like felt that, okay, maybe that's where their friends are, and therefore I understand. Look, I'm the old auntie, right? Why would you want to like, interact with me? Fine. Okay. So, but now what you're saying is something completely different, which is that they are not able to get support and care and connection
mhm,
with their family, right? But
yes,
I would
yes,
put it this way. I mean, like, look, if you're young and you're stuck on your screen, then obviously you're not connected to your family.
yes, yes, yes,
I
yes,
mean,
yes.
how will you be connected to your family or receive support if you are stuck on the screen all the time?
That's the only also is not you stuck in the screen because when if you see that parents also, I'm not blaming other parents because they're working, but we have also to give that time to our children so that we will know also like there's a little monitoring of what they're doing online so that to be able for you to assess it's what's really going on because if we're a parents and we have only also time for ourselves and we're stuck on our screen also and we don't have enough time for our children, we don't have any idea what your children doing. So
So
what's the
can I
one
put it
thing?
this way, which is it's almost a family dynamic thing, right? Which is the parent is stuck on screens. As a result, it
Mhm.
neglects the child, and then the child
Yes,
is now stuck on the screen
yes,
to look
yes,
for the comfort that they cannot find in the house. Is that what you're
yes,
trying to say?
yes. There's some,
Okay.
yes, of course. There's a possibility, and it's really exists, especially nowadays that a father has a phone, a mother has a phone, a children. If you have three children, two children, you have a phone also, and there is
Okay.
no time to do for it. But if the parents has this obligation, responsibility to say that we have no screen time, especially for
Mm.
the little ones, and that's a good thing starting already that there is a monitoring and there is a responsibility as a parents because if you let your children keep on watching those things, they don't have. It's not about time only. It's about what are they doing down there. and they keep watching on the screen time. So I think it's really
But
important for us
I
to
I don't know
give
how
a
to
time.
put it this way, which is when they're very young, I think that's controllable.
Yes,
I
yes,
think I
yes,
speak
yes,
for many parents when we say that the moment that they go into teenage years, and beyond, obviously, there
yes,
is
yes,
just no I won't say there's
yes,
no possibility, but it's really hard for the parents to do any kind of control. Now, that being said, I'm not saying that parents, I mean, I'm a parent myself, right?
yes, yes.
I admit that I'm also stuck on screens a lot, right? And
Mm-mm.
I have had complaints from my child about how much I'm stuck to a screen. And
Mm.
that I admit, a lot of parents like ourselves are. But if you look at it that way, it's like here's the parents come back and go, okay, let's like put away our screens. But
Mm-mm.
I don't see that as going to be very well received by the children, to be very frank. Yeah.
I think it's about, especially if we're young already, we have a responsibility. And if the parents also will give that responsibility to the children, to what to do. There are families, there are even relatives that they're friends in social medias. What of the way that you will know what will happen to them, what will know what the posted of them, and you will see it from there that there's a connection, still a connection. At the same time, you follow each other. So I think it's a good thing that there's like I follow my mother follow me, and my son
No,
follow
but
me.
I gotta say
There's
this though, even on
support.
Facebook, I don't want to friend my dad. Like my own father, I don't want to
I
friend
think
him. So
with
I'm not
your
sure if
with
my son will accept my friendship or not. I'm not sure that that will actually happen. Also, like what you said, right? Talked about friends, and
yeah,
I've always believed this, right? Which is God gives you friends to apologize for your family. So if you cannot get this kind of connection with your family, would you be able to get it from friends? I mean, like I'm not. No, like friends in real life, friends who wouldn't care if you're ugly, friends who will be friends with you regardless of anything that happens. It, do young people these days have difficulty with that?
for me, for my experience, I am more close with my friends, and not, I said that I'm not close with my family, but I am an adopted child. So for me, I have a comfort with my friends since I was in high school. And from there, it's from high school until now, they are my friends. And from there, I am more close to them in a sense that I share. I say who I am. And there are as I know that can many can relate that we have things that we're scared or we have that fear to share with our family, especially with like a mother or a father. It's very rare for a family that a child will share, but it's very there's a big possibility that me I will share to my friends
Mm,
because in my friends I feel that I feel that they're not my parents. So I feel
mm.
that this they will listen to me and they will accept me rather than, but of course you have to choose who are your friends also. I mean
Yeah, but what I
there
mean is, will not these friends that you have in your life mitigate some of these kind of depression or even
mm,
low moods brought about by just social media, people not liking you or things like that?
it's too difficult to do that also. It's too difficult
Oh,
to
why?
trust strangers. It's too difficult that you will say that you will open up to strangers to the extent that there's your private life. There are a
No, no,
lot
it's
of
not that. It's that
people.
you have
Mm,
friends, right? Like, I mean, even
yes,
if
yes,
like I don't know, nobody likes you on, no stranger likes you on Facebook, you still have
mm,
friends who are there for you, who like you,
yes.
who support you, right? So that will be, I mean, to me at least, the way I look at it, that will be your psychological support, right? Your mental health
Yes,
support.
yes, yes,
Does
yes,
that not
yes,
work?
yes. For me, for my experience, yes, it's worked. For me, in my experience, I have the support. Like I said, you have to choose your friends, and I have an amazing friends. Like until now, it's with me, supporting
Mm,
me, even my emotional state of my life, even sometimes financially. They're there to support me, and that's the good thing that I have this kind of friendship. Like I said,
mm,
there are things that I cannot share with my family
right.
because technically I have a biological parents and I have an adopted parents. So from there, I have someone in the middle. I have those people, three people in the middle for me to
Okay.
mitigate because I'm not close
Um,
with my biological
I
parents.
guess the way I wanted to ask is this, which is that it sounds to me that yes, perhaps family is a struggle, perhaps unique to you, but I would guess it's not unique to you. I mean, the breakout of the family unit is well documented. There's loads of different families now,
Mm-mm.
but there are friends. And yet, right? I mean, you tell me that younger people are more prone to depression, and actually, your
Yes,
phrase is that is psychologically normal, right? That's actually
yes.
normal for them to be depressed. But why would it be normal? I mean, what is there to be depressed about? Put it that way.
It's become like psychological normal because, like I said, it's prone to those ages, and that one of the reason of it is like if you have a family background, we have this misconceptions that if you have a family, family will support you, and there are some people that you cannot find that support. You cannot. There are some people that you cannot find that. Like in my example, when I know 10 years ago that I am adopted child, is a big question for me why I am being taken away, why I'm being given away. And that's give me a sense of there's a questions in myself for how many years that it took me like 5 to 7 years before I have able to ask why. And my parents answered me that due to health issue when I was a little and to the point that I'm not eating anymore. Then they send me to the hospital and they give it to my auntie. And from
Okay.
there, my father didn't came back anymore. And that's the question
Okay.
because even until now, I felt like I am alone. But
Okay.
technically, biologically, I have seven siblings.
Right. So it's almost like it's past trauma, that trauma
Yes,
from
yes,
family,
yes,
perhaps from your
yes.
childhood, that is affecting the. Do you find? Actually, I don't know. I mean, those of you who are online with us, what would you say? I mean, do you think that this generation is more prone to trauma? I mean, is there just more things to be traumatized by, or is it that they're more prone to trauma?
I
Because
will
okay, my
say,
generation is very fortunate. I mean, we I lived in a really good generation, but the one like maybe two above me, they had to go through Second World War, so that wasn't easy. And I just wonder, right? I mean, is it more traumatizing to be young now?
um, we have that, they have that like, that we have in the new technology. We have a lot of technology. But for me, if I base with my experience that I had, for me I gone through with it. Like you have to, in my experience, that I being traumatized in a sense that the word papa and mama cannot come out in my mouth, and it's give me a trauma in a sense that my mind is aware that I am being adopted, but when I'm in front of my biological parents, I cannot say anything. And if I relate that one to the generation of the young people, I know there's a lot more there, people in my age there, that they're really struggling about it and how they will view their life with the current, especially with the current situation that we have.
Warren is actually has a really good question. Sorry, I clicked out the wrong one. He said depression seems to be very far down the continuum. I mean, is that normal? And or are we just using the word depression far too loosely? I mean, people are just down or not as happy, and it's not depression as it is medically defined. I mean, what do you
Um,
think?
it will become like a depression, especially if you have like you undergone the traumatized in your childhood. At the same time, there's a recurrent of the event that the same, not technically the same, but when you have that stress, even you have those anxiety and super that severe anxiety that you're feeling, and later on or think time comes, it will go into the sense of you're depressed. If you're feeling depressed, that to the point that you don't know what to do, to the point that you don't understand things and what's going on in your life, and you have a lot of questions that's not being answered, and that will give you the sense that you're not normal. Because if you're normal, you have that sense on your sense, your mental state is okay. But if not, you cannot say that I'm but there are a level of stress. And for
Right.
what I
Okay.
understand, there's a
Yeah.
level of stress. But
Yes.
there is
And
straight.
I was just going to interrupt you and tell you, actually, to Warren as well, which is that locally, I mean, here in Singapore at least, I think suicide is the leading cause of death for young people,
Yes, yes,
as
yes,
well as depression, which is like major depressive disorders. It's
yes,
more prevalent among 18 to 34 compared to other age groups. I sincerely will say this, which is I don't think that is normal because even though it's more prevalent, it's something like 8%. Okay, I mean, we're not talking like 52% or something.
mm-mm,
It's something like 8%, but it is really a lot more. But I think when we had a discussion of me and Maricel, yes. So Wayan says stress and anxiety, he agrees, will be normal, but that's not necessarily lead to depression. And you're right, right? I mean,
yes,
people can be
yes,
stressed, people can
yes,
be stressed. That doesn't necessarily lead to depression. But I guess one of the things that me and Marissa were discussing when we fix the thing is that I think it's almost as though we should be. I mean, young people should be depressed. We were discussing. I mean, you haven't shared this, but I would like you probably to share some of the struggles that younger folks have nowadays with simple things like getting a job,
yes.
getting family, getting getting friends. Yeah.
Even in the education, there are people that when it comes to education, we have a high standard, especially if we have a high standard of like grades, and parents will tell us that you have to have that kind of grades to be able for you to find a good courses when you go to college. And that for that sense, especially if we know our capacity and capability to do things, and we know for ourselves, like for me when I was in college, I had this member of my family telling me that try to do an education, and my first opinion purpose is my first course option is to get a nursing. And my father is really humble to tell me that we can't provide that kind of course for you because it's too expensive. And that's really true. When in the Philippines back home, nursing courses is very expensive, to the point that it's too disappointed and depressed in the same
Right.
time, because when you got your job, your
But
income or salary
I
or wages are very small.
Actually, I wanted to pull it back to what Warren has said, which is something that, like, okay, so for example, you wanted to do this and you weren't able to. You are certainly disappointed. You could also be stressed out and so on.
Yes,
But why does that lead to depression? I mean, is it actually true that younger folks are more easily depressed now compared to previously? Because honestly, disappointment, stress, anxiety, I would say every generation has faced it,
yes,
and
yes.
probably we're all still facing it. I'm not sure why is stressed out, but I am. We are facing it now. Every generation has faced it. Is it, why are younger people more, nowadays?
It's more like they feel like we said that it's psychologically normal, especially if they have a pair of a groups also that they have the same feelings, and they'll say, you know what, I feel the same. And even not knowing the real fact that we feel the same, and he said we have different experience, but I feel you and I feel the same, that I had that. And when your brain is too much to not to cover up, not to like, there's a fuse breakdown in your mental think, the way you think, the way you process thoughts. And it's too difficult for us to handle those things, especially if there's like like for me, member of my family telling me that you have to do this, instead of please ask me what I want, rather than you want what you want me to do. Because we have that
So
view of life that we want our children to be the best, without even asking that what's the best for the children, what's the
I
best for young adult.
can I say this? I would say this is not anything unique to this generation. I'm not sure whether the other listeners feel this way, but when I was a kid, my parents told me what to do as well, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they, uh, my parents did actually ask me what I wanted to do, but it wasn't common at that time, right? Many people weren't asked, people were just told what they should be doing. And I don't think that's something that's necessarily very much more in this generation. In fact, I would actually say probably parents in this generation are more seek your opinions more compared to previous generations. Previous generation, there was a lot more of do it because I tell you to do it.
it depends also with the family background and their family also that they want their children, like for example, we have the family background of my grandfather is has a blood of Spanish blood, and in their cultural background they have that sense that it still believe that they still believe on those things that you have to follow what they want instead of asking you, even sometimes most often asking you, but at the end of the day they're the one will be followed, not you as a child. And growing that sense that you don't have freedom, that's why other people will find comfort outside, will find those comfort until that what's really going on with the family, because my family telling
Um,
me to do this
hmm.
and my parents
can
telling
I,
me to
can
do
I
this.
can I say this? Is it a mismatch of expectation? Because
Yes,
I
yes.
don't think we had that expectation that my parents will listen to me. I had the expectation that I will listen to my parents actually. So is it a mismatch? I mean, is it that young people these days just feel that they should be given the choice, and therefore when they are not, they are a lot more upset than we were because we just never expected it to be that way.
And it's good, yes, and it's good also that we as a like we the child the parents is more open, open into what the children wants. But again, there are people that it depends on the people, it depends on the family, because every family is different. And if you belong to a family that still believe of the past, of how they will manage and handle their children the way they want it, I think it's really depressing for me if I'm the one. Since like I said in my experience, they're telling me to take an education course rather than a nursing, and I choose because there's no nursing. My family cannot afford. I choose an IT. When I took up an IT, they even questioned me again. See, you took up an IT, now you don't have a work. And to be honest, my educational background is not aligned in my current job, in my previous job even.
Okay.
But I was able
This is,
to I was able to manage it, not just to prove them that they are wrong, but to have to stand up on my ground also, because
okay.
I
So
hard
I
with
would
it
say
first.
it seems like it is a mismatch. And actually, I will put it this way, okay, which is I think these are, I mean, I don't know whether this is just a perception issue, but I don't see that the issues that you're bringing up to be, truly very how would I put it? Very, very negative, right? I mean, I think that this is kind of more or less part of, part of life, right? We'll meet setbacks, we'll meet times when we can't do what we want, and so on. And yet, right, it seems to result in younger people in depression, right? I mean, going through experiences that are not devastating, right? That are a fairly normal part of life. We meet setbacks, we meet rejections, we meet times when there's stuff that we want to do that we can't do, and yet the reaction seems to be outsized, right? So that's why I think, going back to Warren's question, right, is it actually not really depression, but you're just kind of using the word a little bit loosely, or is it really depression? And a response of depression to something that is not a very traumatic or very devastating experience. At least this is my. I think maybe it's not fair for me to say that it's not devastating, but just as, like, if I hear it based on what I'm hearing, I think it is kind of a normal, yeah. So like what you say, upsetting, yes. Depression, maybe not, right? It's not a really that traumatic. I mean, it's not a, was it traumatic? It's not that unusual an experience to be rejected for something that you would like to do. Is the way I look. I'll put it.
And it's not only that you're doing it, and it's not only that you feel that way, but if it is an accumulation already of different things that happen in your life, it will really go there. Because especially if you don't know how to do like a coping mechanism in each situation that's happened. Like for example, like there's one of my part of I will say that uh from education and from unwanted pregnancy, I will say, and I am a single mom at the same time. Then it will go beyond what I expect. That in my college days, I have this expectation that I will be graduated, but I found out that I am pregnant. From there, my expectations is failure, and I have to do something about it to be able to continue. But it's really difficult to do that, because
Okay.
when you, like I
So
said, when you go for a comfort from family that you're gonna find it, you will
mm,
find, I'll go outside and to look for comfort for other people.
that's not what I mean. I meant that I bring you back to what you said earlier on, which is that you lack the coping mechanism, right? That you
Yes,
do not have the coping mechanism that is necessary
yes,
to deal with these upsetting things. And is that something? I guess the way I look at it is that something very unusual? Because I personally have never gone through a coping mechanism course. Okay, I have developed my own coping mechanisms for many
yes, yes.
the difficulties in life, and my presumption is most of us deal with it that way, right? So why is it that younger people, I mean, have seem to have a greater need or seem to suffer more from this lack of coping mechanisms?
Because we have different view on lives, and we have different, like, we have different way in how to manage those what happened and what situation that's going on for ourselves. And for me, I have that kind of coping mechanism because I need to survive, not only for myself but for my son and for my family. And that's give me courage more to do it. But if I see it into a general aspect of it, we have a different ways on how to face every circumstances. And for that, it's really will give you some like a lower feelings, or that emotions, that it will really hit your mental thoughts and the way, or even your behavior, because you don't have that enough. And it's too difficult to manage, especially if you're doing it on your own.
Can I just interrupt you actually? And
Mm.
I want to bring up this point by which I thought was great. It's like he says he's inclined to agree that there are many things that could cause stress and accumulation could lead to depression. But to say that depression is normal seems to be a slippery slope. And since you are precisely talking about this, right? That the way that you think, the way that you are inside mentally is different. So I guess I will ask this of you, which is that is it just that there's been so much normalization of, what is, I mean, what are very extreme emotional states? And I will say this, that it's probably not just, it says that, so if we have coping mechanisms, does that mean that we are able to cope with depression? Or does it mean that we don't suffer from depression? But I was going to let me like go back to this one point, right? Which is kind of like, look, you know, when my mental models change and I start to accept depression as normal, then that is a very dangerous thing to do because we are
Yes.
accepting very extreme mental states as kind of normal. And I see that actually a lot of it out. That there's a lot of extremities of emotion that people seem to think is normal. And is that something? I mean, is it actually true? That you accept these as normal and therefore psychologically or mentally you're a lot different from those of previous generations?
I can see like what happened in generality, in general aspect, that most of the young generation are facing. And I can say like that it's becoming normal, because in a sense of we're in that state of mind already, that we have to deal it differently. And we cannot it's my own opinion on it. It's my view of, like, technically, if we're speaking, in that generation, in that range of ages, they should not be normal. Or they should not be, sorry, they should not be depressed. Like, especially of what we have right now. Compared to the previous generation. But for me, it's like a psychologically normal, in a sense that people's dealing with it. I'm not the only one. There are a lot of people are dealing with it. Even it will severe anxiety. They're feeling anxiety, and their mental health is being affected. It's
So
not technically that they are, but what's going on is people in young people. It happened.
okay, so
That's
I
why I
think maybe to just kind of summarize what you're saying, I mean, just see if I'm getting it right, which is that you don't actually know whether they have received a diagnosis of depression. But what you are seeing is that people accept it as normal when they are in very, really quite extreme mental states, right? Where they are,
yes,
really seems to be, I mean, seems to look as if they are depressed
yes,
or
yes, yes,
extremely anxious or whatever it is, and people accept that as normal, and people accept that as that's how it is, right? So and so I think back to his question just now, which is if younger people had more coping mechanism, would that means that they're better able to cope with this kind of state, or does that mean that they will then not suffer from this kind of state?
if I will base again with what I had, I think if we have that coping mechanism, it will reduce, or it will not. It will reduce from those kind to that we can lead to depression, because I call it for myself is diversion. I divert whatever feelings that I got, whatever state of emotion that I got, I divert it. I use a diversion from music that I'm listening, even from my books that I'm reading. It
Okay.
really helps me a lot to
Right.
get my coping mechanism of what my
Um,
current emotional state.
So I think that brings it down to his other point, right? Which is that he says when he hears normal, it seems to indicate that this is okay, right? That it's okay to be
Mhm.
depressed, right? So, but he says if then that is normal, then essentially there's no need to deal with it, right? I mean, it's okay. That means there's no need to deal with it. It's normal. You should just stay and be depressed. But that doesn't seem to be what you're saying, right? If you're saying that you are diverting yourself or you are in some way kind
Yes.
of dealing with it. So what do you mean? I mean, is actually depression okay, or you think that's not okay?
Technically, it's not okay, because when you said that you have this depression, is that you're dealing with mental illness, and it's
No,
like
no.
a
I
disease
think
also.
I think
But
let's like uh
in a normal
let's
way,
let's not let's not
it
talk about technically, because I think
yeah, yes, yes,
technically we
yes,
all know it's not okay, right? But
yes,
as
yes,
in
yes,
for young people these days, when you are in your own age group, when you are dealing with your friends, right? Is there this almost feel as though it is normal to be
yes,
depressed,
yes,
as though
I
this
agree.
is
Yes,
the given state that you should be in, kind of almost?
yes,
There
yes,
is. Okay.
yes. Because
So
even
in
me,
that
I
sense,
will
you
say
think
in
it's
front of my
they
friends
think
that
it's
I'm
okay.
depressed. That's their
Okay.
point that I'm depressed. I
Okay.
feel like that. But
Okay.
like you cannot read, but the feel
So
you
when
say
you
that,
talk to your friends, you feel
mhm,
that it's okay to be
yes,
depressed, or they feel that it's
yes,
okay to be depressed.
yes, yes.
Okay.
It's
All
okay.
right.
It's okay to say that. It's okay to say that you're depressed. You acknowledge
So
it. You acknowledge
so do
and
you
give
think we
give
have to
empathy
deal
to
with
it.
it, or we can just like leave
Of
it? I
course,
mean,
we have to deal with it to be able for us
okay.
to survive. We
Okay.
have to
So
deal with
then
it.
can I ask you this, right? Then why is it okay? I mean, why is it the social norm among young people is that it's okay to be depressed?
It's okay to be to feel that way. It's okay to feel that you have that down moments of your life, but at the same time, you have to do a coping mechanism of it, and to be able for you to survive, to be able for you to move on of what your goal in life. But if you have to say that, ignore that, I don't want depression, I'm not depressed, because the more you ignore it, the more it will come into you. But if you have to acknowledge those things and you will say I'm depressed, and it's fine to be, there's a saying, it's okay not to be okay, and it
No, but
being
I
not
I
okay
think
is
I
depression.
want to pull you back at this point in time, which is it's one thing to say that it is okay to feel down. I think we all agree with this, right? We all feel down. There are
Yes,
times when we don't feel up. That's okay. But I think it's quite separate thing to say it's okay to be depressed, because depression is a much more it's a mental disorder, right? People die
yes,
from it.
yes,
I mean,
yes, yes, yes,
it's in some cases it's even fatal, right? So it's
yes,
quite
yes.
different from saying it's okay to be down,
Mm,
it's okay to be upset, and saying it's okay to be depressed. That's the thing.
mm,
And I think Ryan's point I also will agree with, which is just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. But actually, Warren, I've got to say this. I think we do make this kind of language confusion, where
Yes,
we say that, oh, it's normal for this to happen, it's normal for that to happen. When what we really mean is that it is common, not that it is
common.
okay, not that it is psychologically normal, but just that it is common and it is a commonplace thing. Yeah.
And
So
sometimes
I,
it's a
I'm
common words. We have literally have that. Like for example, we'll say, "I'm stressed. I am super stressed." So when you go also with a depression, that's why it's for us, for the society, they are that time that, oh, you're joking. In the society that will, even your parents will tell you, how are you depressed? You're young, you're beautiful, you're pretty. But there's no, but it's become a joke at the same time that people will not really listen to you because they think that, I mean, you see you're depressed into something, you're depressed in the current situation, no one will hurt you. And because no one will hurt you, it's become like normal. They will not hurt me anyway. Even if I'll tell many times that I am depressed, no one will listen,
so
even the
can
family
I
itself.
can I say it this way then, which is that there is actually a large level of almost unacknowledged, whether it be anxiety, stress, trauma, that pain. Or maybe I'll just use the generic word pain, right? That there is a large,
Pain, yes.
um, common, unacknowledged pain in many young people, and as a result of that, I mean, they develop a I will not use the word depression, but I would say they develop very low moods, then
Yes.
very probably psychologically not very healthy states, and yet
I'm not happy
that's
at the
the
same time.
expectation that it is normal, right? Language confusion. Yes, I thank you so much for
Yes.
agreeing with me. But I was going to say, it seems like that is it's almost like a self-perpetuating cycle, right? There is this,
Yeah.
there's all this trauma from your childhood or whatever it is. It's
Yes.
unacknowledged. People take it as a joke. They don't take
Acknowledge.
your problems seriously, and then that gets worse.
It's getting worse and getting worse. The more you age, the more you experience life, it's getting worse. From from my unwanted pregnancy, from having a son, looking for a job, finding a job, it's too difficult. I was many times I was rejected with even my own school before that one of my mentor telling me to apply for a job as a mentor. And then there's a rejection on it and there's another accumulated to the point that I need to decide to sacrifice myself to be far away, to work for it. And being far from a family that I used to is too difficult for that. And that's one of the way that, like I said, if you there's a struggle, a continuous struggle that I struggle not for myself, but I need to struggle and I need to survive because I have a son. And in that sense of in that sense of we have in telling that it's become like a normal in a sense that people are struggling, but there's a sense deeper meaning of it why it's going on, although we don't want that to happen, but it's like becoming, yeah. And I have like said that you have to acknowledge it, you have to acknowledge your past to be able for us to continue what we are now, although we cannot go back what's going on, what happened. But acknowledgement is very important to be able for us to move on. If you have to acknowledge and to do our self reflection
And
for us.
right, can I pull you back? I mean, just to look at it this way, right? So, do you feel that this acknowledgement or being acknowledged is a generational thing, or you think it's, I mean, it's unique to your own circumstances, or actually, if I would put it so bluntly, is it something that practically all humans face, right? Because I think that many times, people do dismiss. I mean, I've experienced it myself many times that people dismiss the extent or the depth of your pain or trauma. Like, but
Mm.
do you think that this failure to acknowledge, um, it's like a generation thing? Is a generation that, people who are older like myself are doing to the younger people?
And for me, it's like if you go for that, you have to be like you said. It's very important that being acknowledged is real. It will give you a sense of you are worth it. Because if you, a sense of worth it of who you are and what you do or were able to do. But if there's a reverse on it that you're not acknowledged of the things, I think it's really difficult to be able to push through or to be able to move on, because you have that sense of you're not even have this in your side that you're down, and that's keep on pulling you down and again to the point that you feel that you're almost not worth it, and you will say it's better to be gone rather than keep doing again and again or the same thing again and again, because
Okay.
you have the side part
So,
of your mind telling you that you don't deserve it, but
right.
it's happening, it's
And
going.
so these are based on stats that I read. That younger persons these days have actually lower self-esteem compared to previous
Yes,
generations.
yes,
And
yes.
one of the reasons that they have pointed out, right, which is like what you say, I'm not worth it. It's
Mm,
better that I'm gone, and so on, is to pull back to when we first started this discussion, social media, because people are comparing to people who are I don't know, filtered, who are, in
yes,
some way altered or only taken on the best days of their lives.
yes,
And when
yes,
you
yes.
compare yourselves to those, I mean, quite obviously, you're not going to match up, and therefore they have lower self-esteem. And that again comes down to this: I'm not worth it, right? I don't deserve to be acknowledged. I'm not worth it. It's better that I'm gone. Do you think that I mean, in your own experience, in looking at your own friends, do you see that happening, or is this something that that's why it's reported, lah? But whether it actually does it actually happen?
For me, it happened that I came to a point of myself that I feel like I have nothing to give again, to give through. I feel that way because I have this kind of like confusion at the same time for myself, and it's really hard to have that kind of mental state that drag you down, and to be able for me to do that, sometimes I ask myself, it is worth it to continue or I will let go. But looking at my son and my I'm thinking of my future at the same time. It's give me like a positivity. It become I am at the same time side of my mind telling me that you are an optimistic person. There's a
Mm.
positivity the way you view life. Go with the positivity rather than you go to the to what the social media is telling you, what the social
Yes.
media is, the
Okay.
perception that they're telling you, either you're
Right.
beautiful or not. So it's really
So do
important to view
you
yourself who you are.
I don't know how to explain this, but I guess maybe to bring back to Warren's point, do you feel that
Yes.
as young person, or at least those of this generation nowadays, you depend much more on external validation, right, rather than internal? Because rather than
Mm.
you telling yourself and knowing that you're good looking, and knowing that you're pretty, and that's like that's how I feel about myself. And it seems as though you're relying on other people, and actually from what I've heard is other strangers who don't even
Yes,
know you very
strangers. Yes,
well
even
coming to
strangers.
tell you that you're pretty, in order to
Mm.
even feel pretty. Is that what's
Like,
happening, that you're depending on external validation?
I don't want to generalize in a sense that people, a young generation, are doing that. But what I see, and what I observe through social media is that where we have that what the term is, one we craving for validation, especially if that validation didn't come from where we are, and external validation is for us is like it give us a sense of we're worth it, and a sense of joy, a moment of enjoyment in that it what we're facing
Can I
especially.
can I interrupt you and ask you this? But why is there this need almost? Because look, I'm married. I've been with this guy for 20 years, right? He thinks the world of himself. He thinks he's really good looking, right? Regardless of external validation or not, okay? He really does think that, right? So why is there that this need that you must have people validate you, tell me that I am pretty in order to even be happy or feel pretty?
Why people is doing like that, and why you feel that kind of like and you feel that happy, because they're lacking of part of who you are, and they're lacking, like for my case, they're lacking that. For example, I will give my example to myself that they're lacking of where of who I am, and that give a certain validation. If I see someone, a people were telling me, especially what's going in social media, is that it will give me validated. that I am worth it, despite the fact that there is inside, deep inside, there is lacking on it, and that lacking support. Instead, that you got it from your family that you have, or even the circle of friends that you have. It's for people, for young people, it's not enough. And for me, I because there's a lacking from coming for where I am.
Right. Okay.
People are keep
Um,
on putting that gap where
I
they will.
will I will tell you that I think I agree with you that it is it's almost like a need from inside for something that you say is lacking or something that's
Yes,
missing. And I think Ryan also agrees. He says that chasing the likes and the subs. But I will also say this actually, Ryan as well, and also to you, which is I don't think this is a young person only problem. I
yes,
know many people my age who are still chasing the likes and the subs. Tell you honestly, and I really
yes.
don't think that is a unique. I mean, how about you? Do you like when you look at say your parents or your teachers? Do you find that as a young person, as a cohort, you guys tend to chase the likes and the subs more than older people would?
We have the different, like we have a different generation, and having a different generation of what we have right now is different from before, and it's too difficult, it's not easy to compare what the older generation had to what we have right now, because right now we are in a global, and we have internet, we have those platform that will give us a sense of like we have comfort, rather than before, that if we compare the life of before, it's totally different. So I think it's two different things, that we have that people like of those and before and now, it's totally different in the sense. So I for me, in my opinion,
Okay.
I don't want
So wait, can I
to
can I
to
just put it back and say you when you say that it is different, what do you mean what do you mean by different? As in, do you feel that the way that you are growing up makes you more likely to chase the likes and subs and because we have never had this sort of chasing the likes and subs until now, so there isn't there as much of a compulsion. Like what is the difference that you are trying to highlight?
the different is that when you have those things right now, it's give you like it's give you like I have this, and you have that sense of other people don't have it, and to be able to do that, you will hold on to it, although the reality is different. But those likes and subs will give you like a sense of, oh, I am in my top, but the reality is not. Just to face, like I said before, it's like a face
Okay.
mask. We are wearing a
Okay.
face mask in social media
Right.
just to hide what's really who you are.
So in that sense, it's how would I put it? Uh, yeah, correct. Actually, I think Warren put it better than me. So I think I'll use his words. The need for validation is timeless, and I think validation comes in different forms. And I that's exactly what I was gonna say because I wanted to say that in my generation, we chased status, we chased title, the corner
Yes, title.
office, climbing up the corporate ladder. I mean, those are all things that we chased, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
it just seems as though that what you are chasing in terms of validation is different.
different.
And I think my question will be does this difference impact your social impact your mental health? I mean, does it make so much of a difference that kind of depression is normal or depression is common, to use Ryan's word?
Um, in that sense that you have that kind of in yourself, it's becoming like a normal thing, because what we have, the technology also can offer to us, and for that we have to have the kind of that uh think of ourselves in a way that it's being normalized, because not only a percentage of not only a few people or young people feel that. It's a lot, especially that we have right now. uh, we have an open wide of
I
options.
think I will pick that word out, and I would totally agree with you. I think it's being normalized. It's being normalized to feel that upset or that unhappy over, say, not getting enough likes. over not getting enough subscriptions. I really think that's what's happening. That all these things are normalized, and as you say, it's because the young people themselves feel lacking. I am hesitant to draw a parallel as to whether we felt more lacking in the past. Because when I was a teenager, when I was a young person, I also did. I mean, I think that I am much more confident now in my middle age than I was as a teenager. As a teenager, I was much more, oh, how are people looking at me? I should dress up. I should look good. Um, I actually, I mean, I don't know whether there is a special lack of this generation, but I think that's a process of growing up that everybody goes through. As a teen, as a young person, I think everybody is a little bit more conscious of themselves, a little bit more conscious of your
Yes,
peers' views on you. And as you grow older, you grow out of it and you grow more confident. But that being said, right? I mean, social media is no help, obviously. But what can I mean? Where do you see this lack being able to be plugged? Do you actually even see that this lack would be ever plugged?
I see it in a sense. I see it in for me. I see that kind of luck. Then when we go back of the experiences that I've been through, and there is a part of me that despite there's a technology, despite of it, I know for myself that I am looking for something. There's something missing part of me, and that part of me that it takes me back for where I am. Then when I question myself that why I am given away, and it's give me a mental trauma for myself, and that. But at the same time, as I grow older, as I understand uh, my family, I understand that even myself, I have also that I have this. I need to do the balance to balance out. You have to do a check and balance for yourself, and I did it for myself. Of why is the purpose? What my parents did? I know right now in this moment my parents has this kind of uh, feelings also, or this kind of struggles also for their part, that that they give it me, because the consequences of that is lifetime. I'm now right now I'm not close to my family, and right now I have a priority, which is my adopted parents, and I know
Mm.
that the when I see myself with my parents uh, part, it's too difficult, and
Right.
that part is too difficult to think that if you see into how you face the world through social media, what we believe in, it's totally different. It's totally different, but for us, it's become a normal. It's become you have that mindset. It's becoming you set it into your mind that it's
Okay.
normal.
I
That things is
I
going on. It's
think
normal.
let me phrase it this way, which is and also to bring in Ryan's comment, which is I think that you certainly have gone through a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, and I will say that through all the generations, there have been many many people who have done the same, gone through a lot of trauma, pain in their childhood. But oh no, sorry, this is the wrong comment. But right now we live in an age where you know I think we all have some traumas growing up, but now we live in an age where the external validation is just so prevalent and so difficult to escape that it
Yes,
becomes the crutch that we lean on. Okay, rather than like what Wayan says, right? Grow as a person, mature, become an adult. Because that's the process, right? I won't say we all have had traumas, but I would say, like personally, I've seen you, and I've seen in many people. We go through some traumas in our youth. Then we grow up, we get stronger, we grow and mature and become an adult, and we develop as adults. But now that there's so much social media that we can crutch on, we stop and maybe that's what you mean by we don't develop that kind of coping mechanisms. We don't develop that mental maturity, and instead we depend on an external social media crutch. Is
Yes.
that a fair assessment of what's happening?
Um, for me, it's like for me, it's like when we see it, we have a different view and different with the way we look at it. But for me, it seems like when we go beyond what we can in our lives, it's becoming like we have this tend to normalize things to be able for us to survive and to be able for us to face what's ahead of us. But at the same time, we have this kind of asking ourselves, and I came to the point that uh, if I have that kind of like external validation, it will give me a sense, like I said, it will give me a sense of joy. But at the same time, it's not, because the bleeding of one of myself, of what I've been through, is still enough for me. And it's not the validation. It didn't like the validation that I get from outside world is not for me. For when I see it, it's not the reality for me. I need to validate on my own. I need to do it on my own. But we're craving for that. We're craving for the validation of others. For us,
Okay.
when others validate us and telling us something, it will go up. We have that self-esteem go up. We're overwhelmed, but the reality, we're lacking of it for
Right.
ourselves,
So
and it's too
I think
difficult to.
that's exactly the process that we are describing, right? Which is you need to develop your own
Own.
internal,
Yes,
almost,
yes,
yes, your own internal validation, your own
yes.
internal
Rather than
strength.
go asking from
Yes,
people.
correct.
Mm.
Exactly the coping mechanism that you talked about earlier. But right now, because it's so easy to get this external validation, that's why we are, I mean, honestly, the younger people are leaning upon it, and therefore it becomes normalized, right? So then does normalizing things become the coping mechanism instead, right? I just normalize this state of I'm not so strong, I need external validation, almost. I don't know whether I'm saying it correctly, but almost normalize this emptiness, right? Because we are not getting, I mean, obviously these validations will never fill the hole that is truly in us.
Um, I would like to say that for me, if I threw that into to that sense, for me it's like I will go back to that I say a while ago, for acknowledge for that of what I'm feeling, of my emotion, with my thoughts, or my emotional state. Because from there, if I acknowledge it, I have this acceptance. I will give an example of my, like, it gives me that I have a 14 years old son now. And it when I knew before COVID hit us, I received a call from my family that my son has something problem in the left ear. And to be able for me to know what really happened, I sent my son to the specialist. And we found it that my son has an profound hearing loss. And for me, if I have it to myself that I keep on blaming, I acknowledge that I have this kind of, I made mistakes, I made a wrong decision of my life. And
Sorry,
that's the
can I ask
consequences.
again? I didn't catch it. What happened to your son that he is psychologically
My son has
has
profound
hearing
hearing
loss?
loss.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And
Okay.
for that, it gave me a breakdown, because it take like 10 years, 11 years before my son telling me. And honestly, I saw myself in my son, because I'm the kind of personality that I will keep it for myself. Like I said, it took me years to ask my parents why I'm being taken away. I'm being
Okay.
given away, and my son is worse. To the point that my son keep it for a longer year without even telling me, without even telling in the family. It's just
So
happened that.
can I say this, right? Which is that, like what Wayan says, the analogy of a crutch. Because things have happened in the past and you have
Mm-mm.
this wound, instead of developing or healing that wound, you depend on external validation as a crutch,
Mm-mm.
and therefore that prevents the healing. That prevents you from getting stronger, so that you will be able to cope. And now, when new challenges come to you, as you like, your son, for example, it's almost a repeat of the whole cycle, right? Because I, as the parent, did not develop this in my youth. Now I
Mm-mm.
have a much younger son,
Yes,
same thing,
yes.
he doesn't have this, and it almost is a perpetuating thing that's happening. So I mean, if I say now I take away your crutch, right? If I say, okay, now no external validation for you, right? I take away your crutch. Is that actually helpful, or is that even more traumatizing?
Um, it for me, it will give me like, if that validation will remove from me, it's not it really as in it's not really that like you are, you remove it, but especially if you yourself develop on your own internally the self validation that you're looking from outside. But if I have that kind of, if in my sense of, I have this kind of event in my life, and it's too difficult also for me, like I said, for myself, that to depend on that validation just to be able to cope up. But me, I
So,
learn it along the way.
um, I will say this, okay, which is just like in the case of the crutch, right? If I take your crutch before your leg has healed,
Mm.
then actually is very debilitating, right? Because I can't move anymore, right? And that's can be quite devastating. Obviously, you need the leg to be stronger before you can take away the crutch.
You can take away
But it
something, yes.
is, yeah, correct. I mean, you need the leg to be taken. I mean, you need yourself to develop your internal validation before I can take
Yes,
away this crutch.
you can
But
often you can take
I
away.
will say this though. I mean, look, I am a victim of it myself, right? That social media or even just being online is so addictive that I I mean I mean, it's a little bit like saying, do are we addicted to candy or addicted to chocolate? Do we
Mm.
know it's bad for us? Yes. Are we addicted to it? I think many of us are addicted to it, and it is actually very, very hard to say, I want you to completely develop this strength before I take it away.
Take it
So
away.
that being said, it's been, it's past 9 o'clock. I mean, I don't expect that we can solve this problem like in an
Yes,
hour,
yes, yes.
but I think that, I have at least personally gained a much deeper understanding of what it is. I mean, the way I look at it is really that, all these past traumas that I'm not sure whether this generation is more traumatized than previous generations, but certainly we've all been traumatized, and yet now we have this situation where, it's easy to get the addict, right? It's easy to get the drug of external validation than to
Validations
develop the true strength of internal
from family.
validation, of
Yes.
healing your trauma, or family, like you said, or really developing that family, that we need, right? That I mean, given all of that, is there anything that you want to, I don't know, comment, or you want to say at this juncture?
Um, le- I have a few, I have a questions. I would like, I would like, I will ask a questions like,
Sure.
um for those, for those struggling, for those who struggle when it comes to depression, and even severe stress and anxiety, especially for the young people. And we are in Singapore, and we I know that Singapore belong to one of the richest country. And I would as serene as you, like you work in the government sector at the same time.
No,
What
no,
Singapore
I don't.
is
I
like?
don't work in the government sector. That's a
We're-
misunderstanding. I run my own
I'm
business. Yes.
sorry.
Yeah.
I
No, no,
like,
no.
we have that. Is it any point of view that any idea that we can have, like, for the treatment is there any treatment? Because I was shocked when I saw that antidepressant, and if you have something in yourself, and for example where your parents will send you to the doctor, you yourself send you to the doctor, and I found out that the antidepressant itself is very expensive, and looking on it, like, I feel more depressed with the price. And is there any way that the government can help, especially for those young people, like dependent on themselves, to have even to listen the price, or to have that kind of do you have a term of it, that to listen, to have to like a policy, or to implement something that can be listen the price of those
Um,
antidepressants.
I will put it this way, which is, I think that for, I mean, I understand you're not local, but for many locals, I don't think that the cost of treatment for mental disorders is prohibitive. Okay, I mean, I don't think that it is extremely expensive. It is subsidized, and I don't think that it
Subsidized.
is very, yeah, I don't think it's very, very expensive. That being said, the cost is not the biggest um, it's not the biggest barrier. The barrier for many, many people in seeking help for mental health is that they worry, right? They worry that, for instance, I will not be able to go into government service anymore because I now have a record that says I received
Yeah.
psychiatric help, and therefore I will not be able to go and work in a government in government service. I don't actually know if this is true or it is just merely something that is rumored, but that is a very common belief. Even to the extent of believing that you can't get into universities, you can't be appointed for great research, simply because you have received psychiatric help at some time in your younger days. I mean, even if it's for something as simple as, let's say, it's ADHD, right? I mean, so people shy away from treatment. I don't think the number one reason is cost. I honestly tell you that. I think that fear of being one day stigmatized, that fear of paying the price later, that my child will pay that price later, is one of the reasons people don't take their kids to get this help. That, as you said, maybe if they did, right? Maybe if they did, they were able to heal them at a younger age. That may help them, later in their life, right? Yeah. I think I don't know what can be done to change this. I tell you honestly, I don't know what can be done to change it. There's
Because for
certainly been a lot of education, but you know, the ultimately is for each parent to make that decision. There's
this is
that
only
much I can say.
for my opinion and point of view on when it comes to depression, and to those treatment, that and the consequences, or the output of people. I think if we have that we have that belief that a particular person cannot go to university, cannot go to work, I think the depression itself, there's a big possibility that become be normalized, because people don't people will hide those things, and people will not go for treatment, because afraid of, there's a fear that they cannot do things they're supposed to be do, because there is this of the wall in front of them. And, and I don't want to say that I'm telling that the government do something about it. But this is only my opinion, and this is only my view on uh, that we cannot that we as we have to
I
do,
Okay, so I
because it's
won't say that the
our
government cannot do anything about it,
generations
but
actually.
I will. Sorry, so I said I won't say that the government cannot do anything about it. I mean, obviously they can,
Mhm.
but
Yes,
I
yes,
will say that I don't think it's something that's entirely solvable by the government,
yes.
right?
Mm,
So I don't
mm,
think that just that anything the government do can
mm.
entirely take away that fear or that stigma within
Stigmatized.
society, that almost like the the prejudice within society for mental health disorders. I really don't think that that is something that I mean, you're welcome to like disagree with me, right? But I really don't think that's within the capability of the government to ever remove. And then Warren was saying that
Miss
maybe that's
Ring,
one of the benefits of normalizing it, right? Is to remove the stigma. That it's so normal to be depressed that there's no stigma. But actually, the stigma is not there, Warren. Really, the stigma is receiving treatment, and that
treatment.
is the scary bit, right? Because among young people, I think it's they feel that it's normal to be really, really like down, really in an altered mental state.
But yes,
But it is a stigma to get help. That
it's
is the
not normal.
scary part.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's a scary part. I really agree
Yes.
with that. But because
Yeah.
it will affect the future. It will affect the way the society look us. So we have prevent ourselves from asking for treatment because we have this that we don't want to be stigmatized because people like there's also a meaning of people of how they will see the words like if you have something like you've gone through or depression is in your life, people will tell you that you're crazy, and that is very down part of your life if someone will keep on telling you again and again that you're going crazy or you're being crazy because you're not normal in what the society expected you,
Yeah.
then it will really affect your whole being as a human, as a woman, as a mother, because there is that stigmatized that you're different. But that,
Yeah.
that's why people,
So
even me, if I have an experience and into a deeper higher of depression, I think I won't go for I won't go for treatment because
yeah.
there's a pair that will not only affect
I
the whole family I
I
have,
can
even
only say this, right? So I can only say this: if you are a parent, if you are a kid, maybe you're a young person yourself, regardless of what your parents believed in, if you feel that you need some treatment, that could be one way forward. I think
yes,
this
yes,
whole young people normalizing depression but not normalizing treatment is
it's treatment,
alarming to
yes,
me. But on the other hand, like, do I really believe that people will change just by a few words? Probably not. But that's something I hope people can consider, and I hope people can think about. Do we really want? I mean, look, if you're 25, there's you have like 70 years or something ahead of you, right? Is
yes.
that is that a state that you want to carry on, or you want to stay in for that long a time? So that's, I think, something to think about. Okay. I Warren has thanked us for the conversation. Thank you, Warren, for your participation. I
Thank
really appreciate
you.
it. I appreciate the points that you've made. I mean, it's almost an hour and a half. I think we'll wrap it up. But before
Yes.
we wrap it up, is there any one final thing that you want to say? Actually, Warren, if there's one final thing you want to say, like, throw it in the comments as well.
Uh, I have this something that the ambassador of the United Nations. Actually, they are famous. They are Koreans. They are called BTS, and it's really a, give me a courage to speak up for what I believe in and what I've been through. And I have this message that there will be times in your life when you question your own decision, whether you have made the right choice, whether you're doing well or walking the path of failure. You do remember you're the leader of your own life. That for me, I have been through difficulties, struggle in my life, but I know there are a lot more growing up, and those are experiences that uh, shaping me and molding me of who I am, that I can share and I can tell to the young generation that it's okay not to be okay. That as long as you have that internal validation coming from you, it's not the internal validation not the external validation that we're craving for, although it's really nice to have that, but at the end of the day it's really important that that kind of validation of who we are coming from us, because it will help
Yes.
us to have that confidence, and that what life coming ahead of us, we have to stand up and prevent ourselves into more depression level of ourselves, even it's becoming a normalized that we feel that way in our generation. But it's really important to have that self confidence in our own, and to get that validation coming from ourselves that we do good, we can do
Yes.
something for ourselves, not only for
Yes.
ourselves but our family.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I think Hua Yuan is also encouraging you. He says, Maricel, stay strong in your belief, in your own belief, in your strength. And actually, I also salute you. I mean, I can tell it's been a really hard journey. And I salute you for, moving away from all that external
Mhm.
validation, and actually developing your own strength, your own internal validation. And I hope that, your son also will learn this, from you as a role model and develop his own state. Okay, so for all of you who have joined me tonight, thank you so much. Tonight we are talking about youth and how depression in young people is normal. Next week we are going to talk about slightly different topic with someone slightly older. We're going to talk
Yes.
about complicity in mediocrity, whether societies, organizations actually conspire to make us mediocre, rather than as we've been sold the illusion of organizations, societies making us, more excellent, helping us to excel. Okay, so thank you very much. Tomorrow, no, next Thursday, um, and we'll see you guys then. All right, thank you so much. Thanks for coming by. I really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
and Merry
Yes,
Christmas.
thank you,
Merry
Marisol.
Christmas,
Thank you, and thank
everyone.
you for
Thank
coming to
you.
share your
Thank you. Thank
story. Okay,
you.
bye bye. Bye.